no separate login for this. So you want to go back to your file for Bob Smith. I want to click on Forms, and now I want to look for where it says LIBOR Memorandum Memo of Offer to Purchase, right? So basically, Memo of Offer to Purchase. We're clicking on that link, and now we're seeing your offer letter here. Because we have already told the system that we have two buyers, we have Bob Smith, we have Lisa Smith, both of their names are coming up there. We already have your information is pulling from MLS. We are putting in an offer. We don't have attorney's information right now, so you can leave it blank. Now you have your property location. Some agents start filling out all the information in the first field. Every time you're putting in more information, the fields get smaller and smaller. So you don't want to do that, okay? So you want to do it properly. So let's say it's 11701 127th Street. Click on tab to go to the next field, okay? Could be Ozone Park. See how it gets smaller? Maybe you want to put Ozone Park in here, or put New York here, South Ozone Park. If it gets too smaller, you can put it in here, right? By dividing this address, you can clearly see it. You don't want to put everything in one field, okay? Maybe you want to put New York here. That might be the most accurate one, right? If you had a longer address, you can put, if it's a unit, you can put that in there. If it's a condo or co-op, but you want to put in the full address there. You definitely want to include your MLS ID in there. So put in your one key MLS ID for that offer. Next is asking you when is the proposal closing date. So if it's a mortgage, if they're getting a 30-year mortgage, if they're working with anybody, typically you want to put in for 30 to 45 days. If it's a cash deal, maybe you can close within 1 to 2 weeks. But typically you want to put in for at least 30 days or so. So if today's the 29th, maybe I want to put in for December 10th, maybe. Okay. Then is asking you for number two is that property disclosure form to be completed and delivered. You always want to click yes to this. It's saying that the seller has to provide a property disclosure form. So we know that if he or she knows anything about the property's condition, so you always want to click on yes. Next is your purchase price. So let's say your purchase price is $500,000 for this example. Okay. Letter B is asking for your seller's concessions. Are you requesting out of this $500,000 any money back at the closing table for your buyer? Why would someone want to do this when they don't have enough money in their pocket for down payment or closing cost, and they're telling the seller, we need to finance this amount, so we would want to get, maybe $10,000 back, $5,000 back. But just know that anytime we're asking for seller's concession, your offer is a little bit weaker compared to the person who's not asking for anything back. Okay? So if you put in an amount in here, that means the listing agent is telling the seller that they are requesting this money back. Okay? Most of the time, if you're not asking for a concession, you put zero there. For down payment, this is not the total down payment, but rather how much money you're going to put on the contract. Okay, so if it is a on the contract, what we see usually in this day and age, the lowest amount around $10,000 for a single family. If it's $1 million property, then they might ask for 2%, 3%, 4%, right, on the contract. This is not the total down payment, but rather what is going to be on the contract. Let's say for this example, we're going to put down $10,000. Okay. So your client initially tells you, hey, I'm going to put down 10% down payment. If it's 10% down payment of $500,000, 10% of $500,000 is $50,000, right? If the $50,000 is coming from his pocket, what is going to be the mortgage amount? So whatever is left, which is going to be $450,000. Okay. So if he's putting down $50,000 down payment, but he already put down $10,000 on the contract, that means he has to bring in only $40,000 because total down payment he wanted to put down was 10%, which is 50,000. He already put down $10,000 on the contract. Remaining balance is going to be $40,000. So if you add this 10,000, 40,000 plus 450,000, all three amounts add up to your purchase price of $500,000. Okay? Letter F shows you that if you already spoke with your listing agent and the listing agent is telling you that, hey, we are willing to pay, or the owner is willing to pay you X amount. It could be 1%, 2%, whatever it is. If the listing agent is saying that, then you can put in the percentage here, right? Some of the agents are just assuming that, hey, we will get paid this, so we are requesting it. Either or works, right? So seller payment to the buyer's broker. So initially we asked our buyer to pay us something. It could be 2%, to give you an example. If the seller's agent is saying that the seller is willing to pay you guys 1%, that means you can only charge 1% to your buyers, because total for your service you're charging two, half of it is coming from the seller, half of it coming from the buyer. This is the section where you have to include that. Okay, you can either put a percentage, let's say it's 1%, or you could put an amount. Okay, so you can, let's read this together. It says seller's payment to the buyer's broker. Seller agrees to pay buyer's broker an amount equal to 1% of the sale price. Again, this percentage is always negotiable. Okay, nothing is fixed when it comes to comps. Next is your contingencies. You always want, if you're representing a first-time home buyer, you always want to make sure that these two things are checked off. That you do not want to waive your home inspection, you actually want to do a home inspection, and you want to have financing contingencies. What does that mean? That means your client already had a pre-approval, but we always want to get a commitment letter from the same lender to make sure that this person can actually get the loan. Okay? Under financing, you can put 30-year mortgage, you can put all cash, you can put anything that has to do with financing in there. Okay. If you and the listing agent have agreed for anything to be included in the sale or excluded from the sale, you would put it under personal property. So as we know that unless something is fixture in a property, it should stay there. It could be a chandelier, right? To give you an example. If you want that chandelier to be included, then you would put that in number one. If there's something to be excluded, let's say it was a dishwasher, right? And they're gonna take that, then you can put excluded dishwasher. Okay. Others, if you guys agree on anything else, you could put that in there. And now we want your purchaser to sign. Do you think the offer is going to get signed by the seller beforehand? Absolutely not. This is for acknowledgement of receipt when the seller actually can sign this and send it back to you, to the listing agent. But from your part, you want to make sure that you have Bob and Lisa sign this form. So if you guys remember the steps, once we fill this out, where are we clicking? On the pen icon. Okay, once we click on the pen icon, we want to review. Before we set up signature, we always want to review the form. Hey, I see Bob Smith, I see Lisa Smith, I see the address, I see the MLS, I see the closing proposed date. Everything else is there, the offer sheet, everything that we need, the terms are filled out. Okay, I want to scroll to the page where it says Bob Smith and Lisa Smith. They're going to sign here. So what are the steps? I want to click on signers, add participants, add from transaction. I want to select both of them and click on select. Note what the system did. System added both of them, but it added them under seller's side. We know they're not the sellers, they're the buyers. So we need to drag this to the buyer Smith, Bob Smith, and then Lisa Smith to the buyer section, right? The purchaser. How about the date? The date is showing up there. You want to bring that down as well. Now, once we are ready, now we want to click on next. It says finalize signing, send. Now you guys remember where it's going to take us? Back to the signing page. I can see that I already sent them exclusive. I already sent them agency disclosure, anti-discrimination. Now my offer sheet, all the forms are in there, is already set up. Okay. We already sent it for e-signature. Once they sign it, you're gonna see completed here. Once you click on the name, you're gonna see view signed document. You click on download, and then you can go to your Outlook and send that offer sheet along with the pre-approval to the listing agent. Okay, so I hope this video helped to show you guys how we actually fill out the offer sheet.